this is the key that is going to unlock so much. And so, I'm so sorry. I have no idea why it's doing that. Okay, we're almost done. Can I call you back? Before I had this complete change in paradigm in my mind, the most important thing was to win affection, to gain acceptance, to find meaning, and to have an appearance also that was very nice and good for other people, right? My name is Edna and I live in the United States. My life before was very empty, confused, and I had a lot of hurt from the things that had happened in my family. I did what a lot of people do, and I turned to drugs, to alcohol, engaging in sex, and I was 14. The high or the euphoria that I could experience, it only lasted so long, but after it was over, I felt more empty and more worthless than when I began. The kind of advice I was given by my mother about relationships was, don't get pregnant. That was the goal, just don't get pregnant. I ended up getting pregnant, and she was very upset, and she wanted me to have an abortion, of course, because if I had this child, it would ruin my life. There was a lot of pressure for me to have an abortion, and the father of my child also did not want me to have this child, also wanted me to have an abortion. Somehow in my 14-year-old mind, I knew I couldn't do that. And perhaps it was selfish, but in the end I felt like maybe this is the one human who will love me, and I don't want to destroy that. So I ended up choosing against my mother's wishes and against the wishes of the father of my child. I made the decision to continue my pregnancy when I was 14. And there was a lot of resentment from my mother and the father of my child. My mother's response to this was, well, you can't live here anymore. And I was 14, so it's not like she could legally just toss me away. So she found a legal way to do it, which maybe that's not legal in most states today, but she found a state where she could take me to get me married off. And the father of my child at the time, he didn't want to do this, but my mom held over his head the fact that he was technically an adult and I wasn't, and if she wanted to, she could have charges pressed against him. So she gave him a choice: go to jail or get married, and he chose the latter, but very much against his will and with much resentment. And I was off to live with someone who didn't really want to be with me and resented it very much, and who had his own mental health struggles at the time. And I was just a kid. I didn't really know how to manage that. It was very scary because this person didn't love me. And they were very vocal about how they were only with me because they had been pressured to be with me. But I was going to have a child with this person. And everyone was telling me how terrible of a parent I would be anyways, because I was just 14 years old and parenting is so hard. And if adults have trouble doing it, how was I going to do this as a kid? I knew that my addictions and I knew that my alcohol use, drug use, whatever it was that I was doing, I knew that that was not compatible with having a child. Somehow I was able to pull away from that life. And I think it may have been because those were the things I was looking for value in, or some sort of fulfillment. And I saw that it hadn't worked, but now I had the promise of, well, I'm going to have a child and this is going to be my fulfillment. This is going to be where I now have a way to find connection. When my son was born, it was a happy day for me, but it had taken so much. It had taken a lot out of me because I was the only actual person that wanted him to be here. Even my obstetrical provider, the doctor who took care of me, she told me that if I had been her child, that she would have never let me have this child and that I should have just had an abortion because I was going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money. So I basically felt like the entire world was set against me and I was set up to fail. And maybe it was my teenage rebellious mind that turned that into, okay, I can't fail. I have to do this right some way, somehow. So when he was born, I held him in my arms, I locked myself in the bathroom, and I cried. I cried so much because I knew I was just a girl, and now there was this actual real human in front of me, and I knew I loved him, but I didn't know how I could take care of him. It was just so scary. I didn't really feel like I had any support, and I didn't really know what I was doing. Throughout the years of my marriage, I had to drop out of high school because I couldn't go to high school and take care of my son. That made my family, even more disappointed in me. And I was disappointed in myself because now I was a high school dropout, a teenage mother, and I was married to someone that hated me. I pushed through and I continued through 15 years of a terribly abusive marriage. In this span of time, I had 2 more children. I found that I also began to have very hard feelings towards my ex-husband. I saw how much he hated being with me, what I perceived. I took it very personally.
We unconsciously and unwillingly process the information the wrong way. And in order to change that, we must see that it's wrong. And disease is one of the best means by which the human being can understand that he does it to himself because he perceives and processes that information in the wrong way, taking it personal while it is not personal.
We began to evaluate information according to identity. Who am I?
And that fundamental error of mistaken identity, I think, is the key to the woe and disease and heartache and bitterness and depression, all the trials and afflictions that humanity struggles with really comes from that issue of a mistaken identity.
There are only two possibilities for identity. Either I am a creator or I am a creation. Either I am a producer or I am produced, right? And there aren't any more options than that. Now, we can give a lot of different names to it, but those are the two options.
When we take Nietzsche, by example, yeah, who could observe that all people behave like they are gods. So that's evident because everyone searches for power, to control, to dominate. But in reality, the human issue is only one. His innate state of assuming that he is a god or he is someone that he can never be. Self-deception is almost not mentioned in medicine or even in the religious world.
No one in their senses would ever think, I am God. We all think we know who we are. We think we are spiritually independent and that we can live out of ourselves and that we have a love factory within ourselves, so to say. When we see the way we function, that we spend our life searching for love in other people, that must show us that we don't have the factory in ourselves.
All right, so if I'm a god, I am my own. What is done to me. It's personal. And what I give from myself. And so it's also personal. I love others with my love.
But on the other hand, because I'm not a god, that's the reality, I always search to get it from others.
And so I expect others to treat me as I treat them. And I expect others to be good to me if I'm good to them. And when people don't, then I am a judge, and so I judge them, and now I have resentment and bitterness towards them, and I judge myself, and I have guilt and self-condemnation and so on. And so my life is filled with stress, it's filled with bitterness, it's filled with guilt, it's filled with all of these different things and these negative thoughts because my outcomes are dependent upon how other people behave and what they do and what they give and if they don't give and so on and so forth. I'm just a slave to everything around me. I'm stuck.
Yeah, they're doing a favor. My ex-husband suffered from, his own mental health struggles and his own issues and hurts. I could not connect with him. I could not really help him. My way of trying to help him was trying to control him. Rage. Fear, and in my own ways, trying to manipulate the situation so that we could be as okay as we could be, as safe as we could be. So there was a lot of dancing on my end, a lot of walking on eggshells, because the violence extended even beyond me. There was a lot of physical abuse that came on my body. There were days where the violence was rough and ended up with, maybe a broken nose. Definitely a lot of verbal outrage. I tried to step in between him and the children sometimes too. He was sad and he didn't want to be this way. He struggled. I couldn't tell what he was going through because my pain was that real. There was no way I could bridge the gap between his brokenness and my brokenness. There was nothing, I had nothing to give. By the time that we were able to go through a very nasty, terrible, difficult divorce that ended up with restraining orders and basically no contact between my ex-husband, myself, and the children, I was left feeling absolutely broken. And again, like a failure. And I was so hungry for someone that could love me and appreciate me. My first son got sick very quickly. By the time that he was about 16 months old, he almost died and he was hospitalized, and he mysteriously quit eating. And there I was trying to get the medical system to take me seriously about my child. And I found that very difficult because when people saw me, they just saw a girl with a baby. And I think they assumed I didn't know what I was saying. So it took a while to get help for my son. And by the time that I was able to get the help, he was very, very sick, and he basically had almost died. The doctors were not hearing me. I felt like screaming. I knew I loved him, but I didn't know how to make things okay for him. He was in severe pain. His recovery was so hard. And it was very confusing and difficult to navigate the medical system. I read the notes that they wrote about the situation. They're medical notes because they would leave the chart and I would sneak. I was desperate for information to try and help him. So I would sneak in through the chart and try and find something. And the notes I found, the things they said about me, they were really not nice. So it kind of reinforced some of the feelings I had from before, that my worth was not very good as a mother, as a person. I failed at being a student because I dropped out of school. I failed at everything I felt. Thankfully, I was able to find someone that finally listened and helped my son. And he finally recovered. It was a long process and ordeal, but he did, and he lived.
Children follow the same principle in their development as everything else. Children have to have a source where they can get their needs met. And again, a need is something you need to live, but it's something that's outside of yourself that needs to be brought in. And so as children are developing in the mother, their source is the mother, physically and spiritually. The mother becomes the source, is the source for the child. And that continues after delivery, and it continues in early childhood. And as the child develops, the mother is the primary source for spiritual and physical needs.
Most of the times the case, when the child gets sick, we have to see what is happening with the mother. The mother is not happy. The mother is not having her needs fulfilled, her spiritual needs fulfilled. And the child is perceiving mom is not happy. And because the happiness of the child is bound to the happiness of the mother, the child must protest against the unhappiness or the unfulfillment of the mother.
The mother is the drinking fountain that the baby is drinking from. And if the drinking fountain is polluted, then what the baby gets is polluted, and then the baby is going to manifest that pollution in its own behavior and its physical diseases or illnesses or things of that nature.
The mother isn't getting her needs met. The child who's trying to get its needs through the mother isn't getting its needs met. And so there's dysfunction in the mother and in the child.
If mother is struggling with various different issues, especially if there's conflict between mother and father, then that will be something that the baby takes from. And now in taking that information over, and it doesn't meet the baby's needs. The baby needs a mother who's in harmony with father, and they're getting along, and a mother that's happy and, and joyful and at peace and so on. But if mommy is anxious and mommy is in conflict and so on, then that's not what the baby needs.
And it is not because the child loves mommy so much. The child is bound to mother for his own happiness. So he must protest because he cannot be happy when mother is not happy.
So when the baby is sick like that, I talk to the mother. And we talk about what's going on in her life and what's going on in her mind and what's going on in her relationships, and about her need to come to God and to take from God so that she can have a source that is peaceful, that is loving, that is not in conflict, and so on, so that she can have what she needs, and now that's what she can give to the child.
There's never blame involved in that process. It's not the mother's fault, it's not the child's fault, it's just the sinful condition that we're in with this mistaken identity.
And there are times where you definitely see when mother resolves her issues, the issues in the child begin resolving, because the child is now taking from a channel that is a better reflection of God and is doing better at taking from God and giving to the child. And again, that's not for the mother to be guilty, but we do need to recognize what the problem is so that we can address the actual cause rather than simply dealing with the effects.
My children struggled growing up with various degrees of their own pain because of this. Obviously, my first child, my first son, he had probably the worst physical effects to his own body because of everything going on, the stress between his father and I. And as my children grew, they struggled with addictions at points. Not all of them, but some of them struggled with addictions. They struggled with their own mental health challenges that could only be expected after living in what was kind of like a nightmare. I had one child who took on another approach. This child took on the approach of, I need to be perfect. Everything needs to be perfect. I can't do anything bad. And becoming a perfectionist. That's how they dealt with it. They lived in a chaotic household in a chaotic world. And their way of dealing with it was, well, I see what the other siblings are doing. That's not good. I'm going to be the good sibling. I'm going to be the one that does everything right and perfect. And it caused this child a lot of anxiety that they still struggle with, and they know. They're trying to rebuild. Looking back at the whys, why it was that I got into the mess that I did in the first place. I think now I see it. I didn't when it was happening. I can go back and see that the brokenness didn't start with me. And I only know very closely my own story. But my mom and dad, they grew up in very religious households, very strict households, but maybe not very loving households. They chose not to continue that life, and they chose to join more of a free love type of movement. And here I came, And neither one of them was really ready to parent. They were in a situation where they had a child, but they really didn't know how to manage this child or what to do with this child. My mom was kind of really verbal about how she did not like the idea of having children. It was just not something she saw as what women should do. And if they did, it was more of a burden, something that tied them down.
If you have a situation where the mother feels that the children are a burden to her and not a blessing to her, then in that case, the children are going to, they will sense it. They will understand that that's the case, even if mother doesn't express it around the children. You'll see it in her body language. There's still a communication, a connecting communication spiritually between mother and the children. And even if it's things that she expresses alone with her husband in the room, that is going to have an effect on the children as well.
Again, I think that's a case of where is the mother, how is the mother identifying herself? Is she identifying herself as a channel, taking from God and giving to the child? Or is she identifying herself as being God, believing that I'm the one who has to give to this child from myself, and I can't do it? And I become overwhelmed, and I want to give up, and the child feels like a burden in that situation. But if you can understand that as the mother or the father, that you're a channel, and if you're taking from a source that has love, that has wisdom, that has patience, then you can give that. You'll have it, and you can give it to your child, and you don't have that burden, that sense of burden of I can't give my child what I need, and I feel overwhelmed.
What does that look like? Well, it looks like children that have either behavioral manifestations where they're misbehaving, they are not obedient, they have hard time with attention and so on, hyperactive, and then also it can manifest in disease as well, especially in the child that tends to be quiet and doesn't outwardly manifest their distress. Then that inward manifestation oftentimes will turn into ear infections, sore throats, other types of illnesses, rashes, and things of that nature where the child will manifest that distress in a physical form.
She loved me in her own way, but she didn't really love motherhood. That was not her thing. And so my grandmother, which was my father's mother, she picked up that load. And, it's interesting because for so many years, I really didn't love my face. I didn't look like the people in the magazines. And that bothered me. But when I was born, my parents weren't married. And this was before DNA tests were available. And my grandmother heard that I had been born, my father's family. But their attitude was, well, they're not married. Is that really his child? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. But when I was born with my grandmother's face. I was her, clone, basically. And so when I was born and they saw me, they looked down and said, oh, yes, this is his daughter. And my face won the affection of my grandmother. So I have learned to love that face. My grandmother picked me up and she did the best she could do to try and give me some sort of stability. But my parents were still a source of instability because my mother was parallel and her life was stable but not inviting to me. I was not really invited into her world. She was never abusive towards me, but she just didn't have a spot in her life for me. My dad, he was involved at the time in narc trafficking, and this was during the 80s, and he was heavily involved in trafficking drugs from Colombia, which is the country I'm from. So his life was it was chaos beyond chaos. You know, there were times where, even though I didn't live with him, if anyone knew I was associated to him, my life was endangered. There were times when people would come and look for us to take revenge on him with weapons, and times where I would have to run away, like from one day to the next, like, oh, pick up, you're no longer in that school. You're going to another state, you're hiding. There were times where I had instructions to hide in the closet and be quiet no matter what I heard was happening, because it wasn't safe. And if I heard, no matter what I heard happening outside my hiding spot, I couldn't come out. Adults would confront them, and the children would hide, and it was my job to keep everyone quiet, whatever I needed to do, and make sure that we were safe. My mother represented to me two things: who I thought she should be and who she really was. I wanted her to be perfect. I wanted her to be good. I wanted her to give me those things I needed: the affection, the safety, the connection, the acceptance, the place. I wanted her to be my place. I wanted her to be the one that could give me a sense of belonging. And I think these are actually really good things that mothers and fathers are supposed to give their children. Because our relationship was so broken, I didn't get that. I don't think it was because she purposefully set out to withhold these things from me, not at all. She just didn't know how. And she happened to be human with her own hurts and brokenness. So she came with that already when I was coming. She already had her own baggage. And the person I wanted was someone who was just ready to be my mother, be a perfect mother. I wanted that. And she couldn't give that. And I took it personal. I didn't understand. I couldn't let her be a human. I couldn't cut her slack. I couldn't be graceful. I was just bitter. I wanted her to fill this mold. Who she was and what she represented to me was failed me. You failed me. You didn't give me the basic things that I needed emotionally. She never hurt me physically. She was never abusive. She was never neglectful. You know, she always made sure that I had the things I needed. I had food, I had shelter. She financially supported me, but emotionally, I didn't get what I needed from her.
So why is it that we think that we have lost things personally? The reason for that is because we believe that the things belong to us. We believe that we're the owner. And so what is it that we believe that we're the owner of? Well, we believe that we're the owner of our mind. We believe that we're the owner of our body. We believe that we're owner of the food that we eat. We believe that we're owner of the relationships and possessions and powers and capabilities and qualities and capacities and so on. And, you know, so it's my wife, it's my house, it's my car, it's my dog, it's my arm, it's my whatever. And so we see everything from the context of it's mine. If everything in nature functions from the standpoint of taking to give, Everything functions as a channel, like a hose, taking water in one end, giving water at the other end, or an electric, wire, taking in the electricity on one side, giving electricity on the other side, or whatever analogy that you want to use. Clearly, the wire is not passing along something that belonged to it. Clearly, the hose is not passing along something that belonged to it. And clearly, anything and everything in nature is not passing along anything that belonged to it. It only passes along that which it has received, which came from somewhere else. And it passes along to somewhere else. And so, yes, I get the power, I get the resources, I get the benefits and the blessing of it while I'm in the process of taking and giving, and I get to live by that, I get to grow by that, I get to, it's a tremendous blessing to be in that process. But none of it is mine. So this idea that anything is mine is a false concept of the mind. It's a delusion of the mind that I possess anything. When I think that I do possess these things, who do I think I am? I don't see myself as a transmitter or a user or, some of those terms. I see myself as a creator, a producer. I think that it came from me. And so since it came from me, then it's mine. And truly, the basis of ownership is creation. If you make it, you own it, right? If you make it, you own it.
Because since my life does not belong to me, because I didn't create my life belongs to the Creator. He is the one that suffers when something is lost. Yes, I suffer as well, but the loss is His loss, not mine. And when I come to understand this, of course, this will lead me to the question, why did He allow it? But that's a different topic which can also be addressed, and we need to address it and understand it.
And so we're not the owner, we're not a creator, we're not a producer, we're a creation, we're a creature. And so we're not the owner. Then I am not my own. I belong to Him. And when we recognize that, then we recognize nothing came from us, nothing belongs to us, then we cannot lose anything of our own. Yes, we receive the damage, but it's not about us, because we don't belong to ourselves. We belong to Him. And so anything that's done to us is done to God. And now I don't see the other individual as accountable to me for what they say and what they do and so on. I recognize that they're accountable to God.
No one owes us nothing at no moment, especially the spiritual elements. No one owes us to love us, because there is no way that anyone can satisfy my need. This is why we don't find nowhere in the Bible that your neighbor needs to love you. It's nowhere there. It just says you love God, that is the taking, in order to share, to have the power to share that love with your neighbor. But it's your actions, the taking and the giving. It's never the action of your neighbor. That's why the neighbor has no name, because he can do whatever he wants. You still will love him because you live from God, not from the neighbor. But if you expect the neighbor to love you, then you expect an impossibility, because if he loves you or not, it does not matter. It will never satisfy your need.
When I'm trying to get love from them, affection from them, I realize I'm hungry. I have a need. I have a need for affection. I have a need for love. I have a need for all the good things. I was created for good things. I used to try and say, oh no, let me take those needs and bury them. But I know now I can't. It's impossible. I have a need, just like I need to breathe. I can't just plug my nose or put a bag over my head. That's not going to work. In order for me to live, I need these things. I need love. I need affection. I need validation. I need acceptance. I need those things. But instead of going to people, I now know, okay, I have to go to the source of the good things, and that's only God. Everyone else is going to disappoint me. I'm going to disappoint them. So I need to take that from God. The way I take from God is through my five senses, is through connecting with him, right? Like I take in, right? So I use my eyes to take in information, and I use that to read the Word of God. I can listen to the Word of God. I can listen to beautiful music that praises God, and I can take as much as I want. And if I'm having a bad moment or a bad day, I can run and take some more. It never runs dry. I can do it at any time of the day or any time of the night. I don't have to go and bother someone. I'm never bothering him. And so it's this endless source of all the good stuff that I need. And I can keep taking it. And when I take it, I'm full. And I don't need to try and take from other people. When I'm taking from them, I know, ooh, I'm hungry. I didn't spend enough time with God. I used to think, oh, I'm just not going to take from you. That doesn't work. I have to get what I need from some place. And if I don't get it from the place it comes from, I'm going to try and take it from anywhere I can. The best analogy I have is like if you're stuck out in the ocean, you're thirsty. You need water. And so you're so thirsty. And this is a common thing. People get so restless. They will start to drink ocean water. But it's not what they need. It's an illusion because, yes, there's some liquid going down their throat. There is water, but it's not what they need. And you die. That's the best way I can describe it.
And now I give it to others, not because they behave a certain way, but I give it to others because I have it, because I took it. And now if they behave one way, well, I love them. If they behave another way, I love them. If they behave all these ways, I still love them, because I don't love them because of what's in them. I love them because of what's in me, because of what I've taken from him.
Some people come, and there was a young lady, she said, I have this many allergies, but I have so many people who love me. And I said, yes, it's not because you have many people who loves you, it's because of those people you don't love. That's why you have your allergies. She wants to force her mother to love her. People want to force other ones to give them and satisfy their needs. And force and love exclude each other. All problems are because I don't receive what I need, or I receive the wrong thing, what I don't need. So it's all about receiving. The people have their issues with the closest relationship they have. They're the parents, mother is first, then their siblings, then comes the marriage partner, the children, and even the pets. So they don't know that they live from them. In their consciousness, they might think, I live with them. But in their subconscious, they don't know they're attached to them in order to live from them. That's why we have all the issues in these relationships from which I expect, and not only expect, but demand, because I believe it's my right.
If I have the identity that I am a child of God, and that everything I have was given by God to me. He created my body. It's His life in me. It's His talents that He's given to me, and that I'm a steward of these things. You look at loss in a different way.
If somebody stole it, or it died, or they walked away, or rejected me, or whatever, now I take it personally and I'm at personal loss, and sometimes very significant personal loss. Like if your house burns down, or your car gets destroyed, or your child gets killed in a car accident, or things like that. I mean, people, it's so destructive, right? So the degree to which I believe something is mine is the degree to which I take it personally when it's rejected and not treated well and so on. But the degree to which I believe that it's not mine is the degree to which I don't take it personally, because it's not about me. And if I don't own anything, I don't have to control anything. He's the one that's in control. And so I don't have to control time and space and circumstances and situations and so on and so forth in order to fix this and that and the other thing. He's the one that controls all of that. I'm just the steward, so I get to come to him and say, okay, God, you got a problem right now, because the owner is the one that owns the problems. You got a problem right now. What do you want to do about it? And whatever he shows me to do, that's my responsibility. But how it turns out, that's not my responsibility. That's God's. And so the pressure's not on me. I never under stress.
I don't live in an unsafe world. And that is the most beautiful thing. My life is in his hands, and he's good. I can trust him to make decisions for me. I am finally safe. I'm finally loved. I'm finally accepted. I finally have a place to call home.
In order to heal the past and put an end to that suffering, I need to understand that it is the perception of the person, the interpretation of the event, and not the event in itself, what is bringing the suffering at the moment. And that interpretation is what needs to be changed.
The basis of the issue where I judge others because they're not behaving well towards me, and I judge myself because I'm not behaving according to my standard, and so on, the very basis of all of that is that you and I and humanity, unconsciously, we believe that we are a creator. We believe that we are a God, and that we're the source of all of these different things. And all of those problems come as an automatic result of that underlying identity problem where I believe that I'm a God. And it creates a mess, absolute mess in our lives.
My identity has nothing to do with those things. I accept the faults that I have, the mistakes I've made. I know I've hurt people. And I know that that doesn't define me. God defines me. And he says that I'm beloved. So my identity now, or the way I see my life now, myself now, the things I want, my focus and what's important to me is, am I connecting with God? And am I letting him live through me? Am I trying to live my life my way? Am I still wearing my filthy rags? My only concern, my only important thing is, am I taking on the righteousness of Christ? Am I taking on the righteousness of Christ? Because if I do this, then it's him living through me. And what he does is nice. He treats people nice. He worries about them, and he's willing to give his life for them. So I'm no longer focused on being good. I'm focused on letting God, his perfect life, come and be my life, finally. Finally, I get this amazing life that I never had before. And I get it. And it's his, but it's mine now too.